Fire away.
Kevin, I want to ask about the backfield and bringing back Aaron Jones, adding Jordan Mason. I guess I'm curious about your just sort of vision for those two, how you want to play them off each other, and just what you see in the run game.
Yeah, I think the big thing we learned about Aaron Jones last year is he can be an every down back. He can be, he was a featured part of our offense, but what we wanted to make sure that we were doing is we were using him in a way that allowed him to be his most impactful self, which is early down runs, pass game. He's got third down value. I don't think people give him enough credit for his pass protection, either when we're dropping back or third downs. But when he has historically had that 1A, 1B backfield structure, he can be a total game changer every time he touches the ball. So it was always about bringing Aaron back. Huge leadership role on our team, really assumed that from day one. But what are we going to pair him with? And there were some potential great options in the draft. There were some other options in free agency. But Jordan Mason was a guy we played against last year. Really felt him in a zone run scheme with kind of gap complements like the Niners do. We really felt what we were looking for was right before our very eyes. Heavy runner, slash runner, tough to tackle, gets in space and has burst and explosion to finish runs, and also a guy that probably doesn't get enough credit in his pass protection and just every down versatility. So we really aren't pigeonholed into any one particular scheme or in the run or pass phase. But I do think Jordan's going to bring something to the table. In those short yardage situations, those goal line situations, goal to go, where we've really left a lot to be desired as a football team, and that starts with me to make sure we improve in that area, because we certainly have improved personnel-wise.
How quickly did that come together with Jordan Mason?
I think Kwesi would have a better feel for like the totality of it, but I do remember it was not a quick process. It was something that we were trying to figure out what made most sense for both sides, and obviously with him being the RFA tender, Alec, that makes it just a little bit more unique from a standpoint of exactly how it ends up happening, whether it's an offer sheet, whether it's a true trade, all those things. But yeah, he was a target as soon as we kind of we were made aware that he was a potential option.
I think you'll use the two defensive tackles that you signed, not snap-wise, but just like how to distribute.
Yeah, I think you can really look at, Jonathan Allen, I think, has the ability to really play all spots, as does Javon. So it's really going to be, how does it work with, is HP more of a nose with those guys in base defense, working at the 3 and the 5 or the 4 eye. So basically, not to get too technical, but just inside out, right? You got HP, and then he's flanked by either one of those guys or both, and then you got your edge players. In JG and Dallas and Van Ginkel. I also think what these moves allow us to do is really see, guys like Levi and Jalen Redmond and Taki. These guys are going to be in really positions to make our team, but be in impactful depth positions that can get some high-quality snaps for you throughout the game, throughout different sequences of the season that allow you to keep those other guys fresh. And it all kind of goes back to some of the things we were discussing the other day about the idea of bringing on some older players maybe in that room is we can be impactful with their snaps, knowing we've got good young depth that we want to see develop.
Kevin, you've had quite a few guys, I guess Javon, Jonathan, a number of others that are coming off of injuries, and it seems like there's been a willingness to take those types of players on and say, you can bet on the high side and bet on medical staff keeping those guys healthy.
Yeah, I think, more and more every year, it's more of like, Tyler and those guys, they got them. Like, we're going to be just fine. They've just proven time and time again, world class down there with what they do. Same with, we're really excited about Joe down in the strength and conditioning space with, being able to keep Marquise and Dan, in a world where the players now have the resources that, with Ben in the nutrition world, all of that plays into it, Ben. All of that is an idea of how do we maximize our roster, but also combined with what we want to do schematically and as football coaches with what we can offer. And we've just seen it, Aaron Jones and some of these guys that have either come off injury, Andrew Van Ginkel from the foot injury a year ago, and they're second team All-Pro. Aaron Jones playing 17 games. It just feels to me like we can use the resources, but also the collaborative approach that I have with all of them to build a year-round schedule that maximizes every one of our 17 ops. We'll see how it goes. And we got to have depth, and we've got to have other guys available to us, but we feel really good about, I'll tell you what, when you put that group on paper, what it's going to look like up front on both sides of the ball, we feel really good about that.
Does that help you guys in free agency at all when you're able to say, hey, this guy may have an injury in his past that other teams might shy away from it?
I think yes, but it also is their expertise, not only Tyler, but our doctors, of what is the injury, where's the timeline on that injury, and then what would we envision our process or return to play analysis, and then what actually happened. Because a lot of times you look at Jonathan Allen, I mean, a torn pec, and then ends up coming back and playing, and not just playing, he played pretty darn well when he did come back. So you have to take all that into account. Each situation, although injuries as a whole are very easy to paint with a broad brush of they signed a bunch of injured guys. Well, it's not that simple, and it's more something where you have to treat each one as its own, because you know each player is going to come back either on their own timeline or hey, all these guys are going to be ready to go for the off-season program. That's a lot of your players every year. I mean, we have many guys that have different things come up during the season. They don't miss a single snap, but then they need to get things handled in the off-season.
Do any of those guys have timetables, including Will Fry's, that would extend into training camp?
The only one that I believe will be really looking to see if he has a normal training camp or not is Rondell Moore. As far as I've been told. Now, like I think our medical staff does a great job, but we also can't put. There could be some unique things that come up that we want to be smart about. Once again, working backwards from 17 plus games.
A lot of free agents talked about player report cards and how that was a big driving force in them choosing the Vikings. Just how much pride do you take in the high marks there and the culture you've established? Yeah,
it's kind of become a little bit of like something that I know everybody looks forward to, but remember, I've joked with a couple of the coaches here. Remember, we operated the way we do before we knew there was a report card. I remember when Jeff and John and Sam told me, hey, there's going to be an NFLPA report card, and it was after, I think, our first year, second year, whenever it was. Luckily, you guys have heard me say this before, we've got nothing to hide. We actually are pretty proud of the way we operate, and it's really cool now to have sustained long enough that people are talking about it. And by people, I mean players. I can't tell you how many of the players were like, we've heard from players. And it's great that agents and the NFLPA report card, that is a player-based report. So in a lot of ways, Ryan Kelly, heavily involved in the NFLPA, he said, I can't tell you how many times your players have been the people we're asking how you guys do things, how you guys handle things, and you guys are still winning. So, that's the most important part, is winning, but we have a lot of pride in doing things our way, and our players have kind of taken ownership of that. Now it's the hard part is, can you sustain it? Can you sustain it and can continue to push to a world championship level while maintaining the way we feel very strongly about doing things?
Going back to when you onboarded Sam Darnold, what do you think laid the foundation for him to have success for you in last season?
It's a great question. I think one of the things that I wanted to make sure was having a lens of Sam's journey up until that point. I felt like there was moments in time where it was more about hey, this season I'm going to have a great season, or I'm a high draft pick, and was it about today? Was it about one day? Was it about a week? Was it about little sequences of growth and development? And that's what I challenged him to do. Like, part of that was the one-year deal. Like, you don't want to be looking into the future too far. And it was the daily approach is what I believe in quarterback development. Hey, if we're talking about, this type of your drop, this type of coverage, this type of defense, everything's got to be layered learning at that position, because there's just so much that goes into it. That's what I think I noticed the most, and Sam's willingness to just absolutely consume the information. he was such a pro's pro. I told the guys from Seattle, I just said, you're going to love him. He's a grown man that loves playing football and loves the work side of it that allows him to go have success, and that's what he did.
That's my follow-up, just in Seattle. How do you think he takes like what he did with you, and it's going to be different, but still maintains that level of success after having the struggles that he did the first 2 stops?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of respect for Clint and the way they put together their offensive system, and there's going to be a lot of principles that Sam's used to, running the football and trying to marry the run and the pass and generating explosives. I mean, Clint's done that at a high clip for a long time, and I think Sam's familiarity from his year in San Fran when Clint was there was a big part of him really identifying Seattle as a place he wanted to go. I think he's learned the type of offense he wants to play in and can have the most success. And as I told him, it's about going and making that its own opportunity. It's what you did last year is not going to have a whole lot to do with it. You got to go in there and reinvent every aspect of yourself in a new offense and stay true to some of the things you learned. But he's going to take another step forward, hopefully this year.
How do you feel about VR training and quarterbacks? I know JJ's done some stuff with it, and I guess benefits, drawbacks.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been kind of a unique tool. That's the technology from when I first started, even when I was playing to when I first started coaching to now is so different. It's so massively different. The way you can tie in, play IDs from real plays from 4, 5, 6 years ago and generate into a digital kind of presentation, almost video game like, and then the tech within that. It's something that I'm learning more and more about. Luckily, there's people that are a lot smarter than me that can kind of hit press play and teach me very quickly about how to use it. And we have obviously invested in those resources for a reason. But as I tell the guys all the time, if you're looking for this to be the number one avenue I'm going to use for quarterback development, you're probably looking in the wrong spot. But that's okay, because it's another resource, just like many of the other things we do, where you've got VR, you've got obviously the traditional film model of digesting defensive information, you've got the traditional model of player installs and using video and clips of Justin Jefferson running this route 5 different ways, and you're now teaching Jordan Addison and Jalen Naylor, and so when I look at it as a whole, it's a tool, but it's a powerful one. And I think Jaden's success, JJ's obviously a fan of it, and all those guys coming in the league are going to continue to want to replicate and duplicate what some of these guys have done with VR.
You guys expressed that you wanted Byron Murphy back. Just why was that such a priority for you guys to bring him back?
I think there's scheme fits, and there's guys that just make sense playing in your system, and then there's guys like Byron Murphy, which go beyond that. And what I mean by that is he's an inside-outside guy that is a hub of communication. Listen, you can ask a lot of the coaches in this room right now. I mean, playing against our defense is not the most fun thing they do all season, because it's a check defense. The players have total control over it. Flo kind of gives them the keys, and then based upon a lot of different things that they're seeing, they can make the best possible decision to get in and out of defenses. Well, as a corner, the days, especially in our system, of just, Matt, I'm covering you, and I got to worry about covering you, and whether I press or play off, I get to decide that. Well, no, there's 10 other guys that you have to be constantly linked with, and I think there's a layer of above the neck that Byron brings to our team. Loves football. He's tough. He's been, really available for us and out there making a lot of plays. He turned the ball over a lot last year, getting his hands on the football. So really, he had earned, obviously us really wanting him to be there, and the contract that came with that. I know, a bunch of his teammates were pretty excited about that. And it's fun to see when a guy comes maybe to your team off of not getting the deal maybe he wanted a few years back, to see him realize that was really cool.
How do you feel about the rest of that position?
Yeah, I think Isaiah was a guy that Flo really identified pretty early. And historically, I haven't been doing this long with Flo, but when Flo kind of has that kind of tone in his voice about guys, I'm not going to mention the other ones that he has had, that it is voice about, but he's been pretty darn accurate. And that guy, whether playing for us or somebody else, has immediately shown up. So no pressure on Isaiah, but he definitely got that evaluation from Flo. Speed. I think he's got the ability to make plays on the football. He's got some ability to do something with it when he does catch it, and whether he ends up being a part of the return game or not is really going to just come down to how the rest of our roster shapes out, because I see Isaiah being an every down impact guy, and then bringing a guy like Jeff Okudah, who we've had some real experience against, big, strong. We kind of see him as a boundary type corner in nickel defense, shorten the field, let him get physical, go put his hands on people. And then I think Mekhi and Nudie coming off the years that they had, where Mekhi was injured, Nudie a little bit more of a developmental year, but we feel really good about those five. And then, our roster's pretty full at that position right now, so it's going to be competitive throughout the spring, especially if we were able to do anything in the draft.
Kevin, with Harrison Smith coming back for year 14, what was that conversation like? Just figuring out if he wanted to get back and go again.
Very much so. I give him his space, and if I call or text him, we are not to talk about playing football until he's ready. So there may have been a couple golf texts here and there, a couple calls to check in on, just all things happening in the world. And then he called me one morning and said, "Hey, boss man, I think I got one more in me." And I was like, "Am I allowed to talk about football yet?" And I took that as a yes, and he heard my excitement. I haven't coached it down for the Minnesota Vikings without Harrison Smith here. He's a huge part of who I am as a coach. He's a huge part of what we built together in Minnesota. He stands for so many things that I believe in this game, in the locker room. Having him back is massive for me, and I thought he had a really, really good year too. I think sometimes we get caught up in the nostalgic side of things with what he's meant. 14 years, one team, 36 years old. He's closer to my age than anybody in the locker room type thing, and we'll still have our coffee every Friday. But he's still a really good player and brings so much to the table to our defense. And seeing him in year 3 of a defense is going to be really cool, especially one where he's got the ownership he does.
What did the folks getting in Cam Bynum?
Cam is, speaking right off the heels of talking about Harrison Smith, he's really sat next to Harrison for his whole career in that safety room. Josh Metellus, talk about high IQ players, and this is a guy that hasn't been playing safety his whole life. He's making up for time lost with, phenomenal physical traits of a former corner. Can play the football, has really shown what I loved the most over these last couple years in Flo's defense was a physicality, a willingness to play the true safety position, come down in the alley and make tackles, but yet still play the deep part of the field at a high level. So depending on what scheme they're going to play Cam in, he's got the versatility to really be a deep field safety, an at the line of scrimmage player, a blitzer. He can play some of the big nickel role if you need him to with that corner coverage ability. And that really shows up the most on some of those weighty downs. Third down, red zone, where you can really align any different way and play man, zone, pressure. He's really done it all, and we would have loved to have him back. When you have that kind of depth at a position where you talk about Josh Metellus coming on and being what he's become, bringing Harrison back, I was really excited to see Cam get that kind of deal, that kind of recognition. It's absolutely what he deserves, and we'll be always a fan for life with Cam Bynum.
You signed the 2 Colts offensive linemen, Kelly and Fries. Obviously, those guys are their own individuals, but is there something about the way the Colts play on the offensive line that you guys want to get your hands on?
I think for years, when you think about Quentin Nelson and those 2 guys and just what they've been able to build, you can just turn on the tape and see a level of physicality. Denton in the front, you see that line of scrimmage change. That kind of jumps out on tape, and I think it all starts inside out. I think Will Fries, he's a mauling kind of finisher type player. The down, really, the saying the echo of the whistle. I would imagine there's some defensive players that would challenge me that it's beyond the echo of the whistle, but that's kind of a play style thing. And then Ryan Kelly, when you see that kind of strength and power and still the athleticism and the overall command that he has. It shows up on tape, and then you see those two guys playing together. It was really not a plan to, hey, we got to go get these two guys, as much as they were, two of the best at their positions available, and fit everything we were looking for, from smart, tough, love football, great teammate, but also play style and high level of experience with where we want to take our team and play.
I think he'll still roll with Blake Randall at left guard.
I think Blake, and Juergens both inside. We'd like to see them at a variety of different spots, but I think if we went out and played right now, I think that's the way we would likely look. Long way to go. Still some opportunities with our 4 draft picks, and ultimately we'll see what it looks like. But I will say, we wanted to make a commitment last year to Blake and see what it looked like over the course of a whole season. I thought over the first 5-6 games, when you really took a step back with him playing next to Christian Darrisaw, he played at a pretty darn high level. There were some moments in there where, I really thought Blake was taking that next step, and then Cam Robinson comes in, and I don't think you can, discount the role Blake played in Cam's ability to come in, handle the communication, new offense, everything. But that had to stress Blake enough that I think we got to give him some grace on some things throughout that time. But then I liked the way he finished, and I liked the way he was able to kind of overcome some kind of bumps and bruises throughout the way, really play a whole season, which we didn't have questions about. We just had never seen before. So now we've got a whole bunch of experience in there from Blake, and whatever we're to add, we'll have to compete with him to win that job.
What are the Seahawks getting in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think what I'm most proud of with where Sam's out in his quarterback journey now is I think he's as close to where he belongs, as far as how people view him in this league. I think he's a guy that's smart, has command of the system, athletically gifted, but most importantly can make every throw, can touch every blade of grass you need him to, with both in and out of the pocket, as the Seahawks kind of learned a year ago playing against us. Well, Sam basically willed the team to win that game, and he's got that in him. And at the same time, I think he's got enough experience now that he can really play the position, that above the neck mentality, make the other 10 guys in the huddle better. There's a lot of really good things Sam's going to bring to the Seahawks.
And then what about his leadership as well?
Yeah, I think it's not easy to come to a team with some established leadership like we have in Minnesota and just be almost unanimously voted a captain, which he was. So I think Sam's going to walk in the door authentic. He's going to be himself, and I think players gravitate towards that. So I think Seattle's going to be really happy with Sam.
In your years as an assistant coach, did you spend much time thinking who you would want to have on a staff if and when you became a head coach? And did you ever talk to those people or indicate to those people that maybe that?
I
don't know how much of that goes on.
Yeah, it's a really great question, because I was actually just talking to Dan Campbell this morning about, he obviously lost some coordinators, and we had some coaches transition as well. So I was we were just in a conversation about what that was like, the dialogue, the communication from our perspective. But the idea, looking back on it, I think I was such a big note taker throughout my journey as a player and a coach. I'm sure I could find Brian Angelico's name in there from when I was in Cleveland, and I got to work side by side with him as him being the tight ends coach then. Wes Phillips, same way. Brian Flores, hey, that guy's unique. That guy's different. I'd love to coach with him. And Matt Daniel. So it's kind of a cool question, because I don't think I had thought about it in the moment as much as I was probably thinking about it in the moment. And that's how coaching staffs come together, because I think you
realize that
I'm not sure. If you were putting together a coaching staff, you'd probably call Alec and say, I spent a lot of time with you, Alec. I trust you, man.
I'd make him keep working hard and see.
But it's a good question, because I think everybody in here is, and I was part of somebody else's coaching journey in here, that they felt like they could trust me, because that's really what you're doing. There's so much trust in a coaching staff form those unique relationships and bonds with players that you're hoping becomes the norm in your building, and it's easier said than done sometimes.
Kevin, how would you, you guys traded for Cam Robinson last year and he started, and now he's a Texan. What kind of football player do they get with Cam?
First of all, you notice just the sheer size and length and the physical traits that he has, but I don't know if it's been talked about enough. A guy that comes in, one of the best left tackles in football, and Christian Darrisaw goes down, and Cam Robinson comes into our building on a Wednesday, and we win the next 9 football games we played against some great pass rushers. I just don't know how many times in the league that's happened, but I think that's a credit to Cam and what he's been able to do. He's played a lot of football, and the one thing about the tackle spot is, there's not very many snaps you're not blocking that defensive end. If you aren't, it's probably a run play to the right if you're the left tackle, and those are plays you've had reps at 1,000 times. So I think his transition, he's obviously stepping in for a pretty legitimate player in Laramie that's had a ton of success. So I expect Cam's going to do well, and knowing a little bit about D'Amico and kind of Nick and what they've built there from a play style standpoint, I think they're going to like a lot that Cam has to offer.
Coach, can you speak to the compensatory formula in terms of your free agent plan? How did you go about maximizing that, if you did at all, the balance it creates?
It's probably one of the number one things I've had to learn about, which if you know anything about the layers to it, just make sure you got some Tylenol or Advil or something, because it's time consuming, and then right when you feel like you've learned it, then they throw in this playtime thing, and they throw in this, and it could change, and it's this range. But when you look at it, like, we're inside of a month away from the draft, and I know how, sacred people treat 3rd and 4th round picks, especially in their mock drafts over there, Matt. But the idea of creating one of those things from Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or Cam Robinson, as we were just talking about, players that you're not going to have back, but that you poured into, it really is something you have to take a mindset with to try to maximize, and we've tried to do that, and that's why I think Kwesi deserves so much credit for his staff and him working with us as coaches to really identify ways of kind of doing the things that we felt were mandates to improve our team throughout the offseason, but doing it in a way where we can still be +2 or potentially 3 even high-level comp picks. So, great question.
We've seen the creativity that Liam Cohen has as an offensive coordinator, but what is it about him as a person, as a leader, that would make him a quality head coach, a strong leader, communicator that you observe?
Yeah, I think he's always, he's always shown the command, whether that was when I was with him in the quarterback room or when he's taken that step to running a quarterback room, running an offense, and from everything I've heard about Liam, he's just ready for the next opportunity, and he's attacked it every step of the way. I always enjoyed being around him. Really smart guy, knows how to communicate, has a great way about him himself with the players, and I think that's just going to transition to him in this role. And as I've told him, it doesn't really matter how anybody else have done it. Guys he's been around, whether it's Sean, myself, Todd, he's got to go be himself and do it his way, and he'll have a lot of success if he does that.
How do you balance, trying to take lessons you've learned but also be yourself? Is that easier said than done?
I think you just have to, you got to walk in the building every day and be yourself, and if you're trying to be someone you're not, this job can be really hard sometimes. It's hard enough when you're being yourself, so I couldn't imagine having to play some role or play somebody else and then have to deal with some of the things you deal with in this job. So that would be my number one piece of advice, and whether it's hard or not, you got to do it.
Yeah. But he's somebody who always seems kind of comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that there may or may not have been a few Duvals from a few of us coaches throughout the week. I think he's probably had about enough of that, but that's all part of it here. That's the best thing, most fun we have here is as coaches, spending time together the way we do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the draft, do you feel like free agency put you in a position where you can take the best player available, just try to add talent rather than trying to fill needs?
Like a receiver? Here's what I would say. I would say we've got to have we've got to have a mindset of, I think best player available is good. At some positions, though, what you don't want is best player available has such a tremendous roadblock to getting on the field in front of them, where like I think when you look at some development of positions, some really need to be out there, whether it's physicality, the speed of the game, just the repetitions that come with getting a real opportunity. So I think we can be in a best available mentality, but I think we want to draft players that are going to be high impact players, especially with our first round picks.
Yeah, I would say in the short term, though, if you have a need for like 2 or 3 games for a receiver, is that Jalen Naylor right now? You think?
I think we basically went through that last year with Jordan. Essentially hasn't been confirmed to me that it was a hip drop tackle in the first game, but yeah, we essentially for 2.5 games didn't have him, and we were able to beat the San Francisco 49ers and the Houston Texans with Jalen Naylor playing huge roles in those games. Jalen caught a touchdown in the second half of the opener against the Giants. So I think Speedy, what we were always hoping for was to see what it looked like when he was able to stay healthy. He was able to do that, and I think he learned over the course of the season the different unique ways that Justin gets defended has a direct impact on how he needs to prepare to play. So I think Speedy's going to have a great year. I think this is a massive, massive year for his career, but we want to make it competitive. And I think whether it's Rondale, Tim Jones coming in, to really fill a role and a purpose, or potentially drafting one, we want to have really impactful players in that room because no matter what, throwing the football has always been something that really defines the Minnesota Vikings, and we've done it at a really high clip. Because of our players and their ability to make things go. Thank you, guys.